How often teams are going to be in a zone? It's hard to say. I mean, I'm expecting most teams are just going to do man, but if teams really get tired of dealing with our cutting and our base offense, then you might be able to see a zone. Um, and I mean, there's a reason why zones are used sparingly because they leave a lot of gaps. Um, and depending on how good a team is at communication and all that stuff, it eventually, if a team plays zone defense for a while, um, the offensive team should find it easier to to find gaps and see how they react. And especially in a league when there's no shot clock, if you work the ball around enough times, you're definitely bound to expose zone. But obviously, the most dangerous kind of gap in traditional zone defenses is usually at top of the free throw like line, high post area. So when we will see zone defenses, that's kind of obviously going to be what we kind of going to focus on attacking. Um, Obviously, we don't want them to know that you know we know that they're in a zone. So if we happen to go up against a zone defense in the possession, um, obviously the goal is to not try to call it out. Right now, I have a way to call this out as C or say Chin or Robbie or Chin. These names, these calls don't really matter. I mean, they can change any time. I just kind of stutter with these. Um, but how we should be looking to expose zone defenses and break them um, is kind of like a 1-4 formation. Um, and obviously, the initial goal is always enter the ball in that high post area because when that happens, then any sort of kind of anytime the ball is in that area or in the paint, like defenses have to collapse. Um, so that's kind of gonna be the first initial goal uh, that we should have when you're up against those defenses. So starting out in that 1-4 formation, it's 1-4 because there's one guy here and then four guys kind of spread upon the wing to high post wing area. The reason why it's kind of high because you kind of want to this is kind of where most of the gaps are going to be. For 3-2 defense, we should kind of look to slant it a little bit. I'll get into that more later. But there's not really it's not as defined as our base offense in terms of like what actions mean what. Because um, as against zone defenses, you can kind of work around the gaps that they leave. So what I mean by that, when I say working the ball around that, is so like starting off with like facing 2D defense. Um, if obviously it's gonna be easier to get the ball in the high post with two guys over here. So as soon as that ball comes here, then they'll have to react. Whether if this guy comes up, then this R2 or whatever whoever's there can spot up in that gap he left. Same for this. If the ball goes from 1 to 3 and 2 kind of helps on that, he can kick out to 1. He reposition himself in that gap and shoot. But obviously, if the ball goes to 3 or 4 and no one closes it down, they can keep shooting that midi all day long. Um, but that's what I mean when I mean attack the gaps. Once that ball enters this area, it's kind of easy to work around that, and I trust us to be able to kind of figure that out. Um, Against 3-2 is might be a little bit harder if like they extend their zone. And what I mean by if they extend the zone. So let's say you do the traditional 1-4 flat, flat across the line against the 3-2. If they're smart, they might bring their two inside defenders there, and then now we kind of look like this, and we kind of congested. I mean, you could work around this, but that's why I say we should look to slant that 1-4 against the 3-2 because they can't really bring these guys up because then they'll leave an open three here. So zone defense is the best way to break zone defense is overload aside. Um, Against 2-3 we want to overload kind of like that wing kind of area. Um, for against 3-2, they have two wing defenders, so you can overload basically kind of like the corners and this can be slanted from this shape to kind of like this shape. This is against a 2-3, but what I mean by slant, it can go either side. It just it's key to have the one in the 1-4 be in that wing slot area, and have another one there. And these are the gaps. And you kind of notice that like um, they form kind of like a triangle around a defender. So in here, there's like a triangle around like this defender over here. So that's kind of makes the defense have to kind of think about what they want to give up. But anyways, we can also rotate positions along this 1-4 through a triangle if we choose to do so. It's not necessary, but it's an option we have. And what I mean by rotate to a triangle is that when that ball goes to the wing area, um, these three guys kind of you can just rotate it around that, and that's an option we have. Um, it's not something that we have to do, but if we want to just keep the defense honest, but we should be good enough to kind of work the ball um, around using these initial starting formations.